has developed even faster than I thought.
A civilizational destruction.
It takes a lot of energy to train a human.
Which are more dangerous, scarier than they were before.
If you're an artist right now, you're probably exhausted, trying to outrun a machine that never sleeps. But half the time, I think we're just running because we're completely confused about what else to do. It made me ask, what is the most important skill for a 3D artist in 2026? Because if a machine can generate anything instantly, what makes you valuable? When was the last time you made something just because you needed to get it out of your system? Honestly, I couldn't answer that question. I looked back at the blur of 2025 and I couldn't find a single moment where I created something I deeply cared about. I did create videos, a lot of them, and you'd think that kind of output would leave you feeling something. Drained, fulfilled, even frustrated. But I didn't feel much of anything. You know how we don't have any major problems in our life, we actively look for them or invent them ourselves? I thought maybe it's just one of those tendencies. I should learn to be better than that. I should learn to be grateful. So I carried on. I drank the coffee, I sat at the desk, I passed out at 3 AM and woke up to repeat it all over again. I fed the machine and I was celebrated for it. Opportunities came in, the numbers grew.
But I miss when numbers had nothing to do with why I created. I just made things. Films that didn't make sense to everyone. Projects that had no audience except the version of me that needed them to exist. But somewhere along the line, I stopped experimenting. I stopped taking risks or chasing ideas that didn't come with guarantees. Nothing I made resonated with me anymore. I wasn't asking, do I love this? I was asking, will this work?
It's optimal. I became the perfect machine that creates. It didn't matter what I talked about as long as I kept talking, as long as I kept up with the label of a creative. And that is when I forgot that I was never an artist. When you finally force the machine to stop, you'd think there would be some kind of relief. There isn't. I noticed that whenever I stopped working just to watch a movie or listen to a song, I felt guilty. We have these expectations drilled into our minds, wiring us to believe that if we aren't producing, we are wasting time. But it got me wondering, why do we feel this guilt? That movie or that song was made by another artist who poured a piece of their finite life into it. If we don't take the time to consume it, it just gets discarded. I realized that sitting there and letting someone else's work make me feel something wasn't a waste of time. It was the entire reason the art was made in the first place.
Because inspiration doesn't come from a vacuum. It comes from that one video you randomly watched at 2 AM or that one song that hit you so hard you felt it was written just for you. And as that guilt started to lift, I found myself looking closer at the things I was choosing to consume. We don't place much value on things that are mass-produced in a factory. Yet, if a human creates the same exact thing by hand, even if it's flawed, we suddenly respect it and call it art. Is it because we recognize the cost, the pain, the effort, the emotion wrapped up in it?
But if that's true, then why did my endless exhausting nights of creating content feel so empty? Mindlessly grinding away at a desk is a struggle, sure, but so is mopping the floor, and we don't call that art. For something to feel real, it needs intent. But having that intent is only half the battle, because trying to actually translate it into reality is where the friction exists. I've realized that the gap between vision and execution has killed more of my projects than a lack of skill ever has. You have this perfect idea in your head, you start building it and it feels alive. But the deeper you get into the technical grind, you realize you've been so focused on making it work that you forgot what made it matter. Every animation you've seen and will see in this video, every pose, gesture, and movement, I captured myself. And for the first time, the gap between what I felt and what ended up on the screen almost disappeared. You see, I usually find manual keyframing to be this painfully slow, clinical process where I lose my best ideas. I realized that the only way to keep that raw energy alive was to stop clicking and start actually acting through motion capture. That's why I teamed up with Rococo for this video. So instead of clicking and dragging for hours, I just put on the suit and moved. It picks up the actual physical imperfections of what I'm doing, things that are incredibly hard to fake by hand, like the messy asymmetry of real human movement that can really only be captured. I'm also using their gloves and headcam, which honestly saved me from the absolute nightmare of animating fingers and facial expressions from scratch. I know the temptation right now is to just bypass all of this with AI. But the problem with AI is that it's usually just a game of good enough. You upload a reference, wait, and hope. You iterate until you settle on a version that doesn't look broken, but you're not directing anymore. You're just settling for a watered down version of your vision. AI is just generating an average of everything else out there. But wearing the suit and acting out what's in your head is the exact opposite. The whole point is that it's grounded in your own body, a truth that no prompt could ever articulate. The world is about to be flooded with average content. But as an artist, your only real competitive advantage now is your unique human perspective. I've got a link in the description with an exclusive deal on the full bundle. It isn't for everyone, but if you're tired of your ideas getting lost in the technical friction, this completely changes how you create. Capturing that human truth is essential, but it begs a much heavier question. What is the truth we are actually trying to capture? I was talking to my mom recently, trying to pin down a concrete definition of what art actually is, and we just kept going in circles. We asked so many questions, but we never reached a final, satisfying resolution. But the strange thing is, the conversation itself felt incredibly fulfilling. It provoked so much thought, and we felt good just exploring it. And maybe that is exactly what art is supposed to be. A good film, a poem, or a piece of music, they don't give you direct answers. You consume it, and it gives you a different feeling depending on who you are at that moment. They just give you permission to look inside yourself, to go deep, and to derive your own meaning. It made me think about the entire debate around AI right now. We constantly criticize AI because it isn't deterministic. You ask it the same question twice and it gives you a different result. We call that a flaw. But honestly, aren't humans inherently the exact same way? We are messy, unpredictable, and constantly searching for answers we never find. We come into this life, the universe gives us absolutely no answers about why we are here, and then our time runs out. We could easily just follow the blueprint, do our work, make just enough money and survive, and we would be perfectly fine. But our souls wouldn't feel fulfilled. We have this desperate craving to leave something behind, to prove we were here, carrying that need through our entire lives across generations. It is the weight of our own consciousness, the weight of everything. This entire video started off as a seemingly simple question. What is the most important skill for a 3D artist in 2026? But somewhere along the line, it clearly deviated. We gave ourselves permission to stray from the script, to explore, to reignite that childlike curiosity that got us started in the first place. Upon exploring, we discovered a lot of uncomfortable facets about ourselves, about our industry, and about the trap we had willingly walked into. But we still haven't found a definitive answer to that original question.
What really is the most important skill for an artist right now? Is it adaptability in this age of AI? Is it having the permission to play, letting yourself run and stumble upon ideas without optimizing them first? Or is it taste, creative direction, and the human intent that binds it all together? Just like the definition of art or the meaning of life, there is no one absolute answer. It feels unresolved.
But maybe that lack of resolution is the point. We look back at ourselves from last year acting more like machines, optimizing, calculating, churning out what we considered art. We originally built machines to take on repetitive robotic jobs so that humans could be free to make art. Instead, the machines are the one writing poetry and painting landscapes, while we are left sitting at desks obsessing over algorithms. So is it that we hate AI because it's taking our jobs, or is it because it's becoming more like us? Seeing a machine generate a masterpiece in seconds is terrifying. We used to think our value came from our ability to produce beautiful things. But when a machine can replicate that output flawlessly, it forces us to realize that the value of art was never in the final image. It was the human friction it took to get there. And realizing that is humbling in the worst way possible. In that way, AI has become the rite of passage for humans to learn the actual consequences of our own consciousness. When you have infinite tools and infinite power at your fingertips, limitation is no longer a technical barrier. Limitation breeds creativity, and the only limitation you have left is your own perspective. An AI can generate a flawless sweeping image of a mountain range. It can combine lighting, texture, and composition perfectly, but it doesn't know what it feels like to stand in cold, thin air with dirt under your boots and no signal on your phone. It hasn't experienced the distance of outgrowing an old friend or the excitement of packing a bag to travel across the country alone for months. It can mimic the output, but it can never have the input. The universe thrives in balance. You cannot treat your creativity as an endless extraction and expect to survive. If you spend your entire life sitting in a dark room optimizing your workflow to churn out content about the world, you stop living the life required to actually have something to say about it. The input is just as important as the output. You have to step away from the screen. You have to let yourself be inspired before you ask yourself to inspire others. Because at the end of the day, no matter how powerful the machine gets, you cannot create what you haven't lived.
Chase misprinted lines. We face the path of time.